Board of Supervisors to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Supervisor Gelmy, Supervisor White, Supervisor Horton, Supervisor Schutte.
Here.
Mayor Bagwell.
Here.
You've got your quorum.
Thank you so much, Scott. We're now on agenda item 3, and we're lucky enough this morning to have our founding pastor from Fountainhead Foursquare, Miss Peggy Locke. Start us off in a good spirit this morning.
I will. Proverbs 16:3 says, "Commit whatever you do to God Most High, and your plans will be established." So we pray, Almighty God, we give you thanks and praise for what you have done for us. And we commit all that we do today to you, that our plans will be established successfully. We invite your divine presence, peace, and your great love to be with us. We pray for a great spiritual awakening, a restoration of faith, an outpouring of your Holy Spirit upon our nation, our state, and for our beloved Carson City. We pray for our governor, Joe Lombardo, and for our mayor, Lori Bagwell. Bless our supervisors with health, wholeness, and well-being as they perform their assignments with excellence. Give wisdom as they make decisions for the good of our community. We also pray for Sheriff Ken Furlong and the Sheriff's Department, the Fire Department, and our first responders, our teachers, our children, as well as those serving in harm's way. Protect them and cover them, dear Lord, with your grace. We pray in the name of Jesus Christ, our Savior, healer, baptizer with the Holy Spirit, and soon coming King. Amen.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Jack, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
Sure.
Okay.
I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. We are now on to agenda item 5, which is our opening public comment. I don't have anyone signed up. Did you want opening, Denny? Okay, come on up.
Good morning, Mayor and Supervisors. Denny French, Carson City, Nevada. I put a public comment up there about Parks and Recreation matter that wasn't able to bring up before, and I'd like people to take a look at it and consider my concerns. And also, I'd like to say I'm here to be here for the recognitions this morning of service and several other items that I'll bring up later. But I'd really like it be considered that these Board of Supervisors meetings have the similar timing as the other commissions and committees and such, not because I feel it will necessarily bring in more people, but it will allow people to watch during the actual hearing when they're home. Not necessarily catching it later, but catching it as it happens. And I would really suggest that people, when they can, come, because it's different listening or reading the minutes, which I've been doing recently. You don't get the feel, the energy, or the vibe unless you're here, personally here. So I would like to encourage the community. I speak for myself and I come when I can. It's important not only to be knowing other people, but to experience the event. So it's different to hear a ball game on the news or read the deal in the paper afterwards, but the energy at that game is what you're really getting the benefit from when you're there. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Owens?
Sandra Owens, and I'm a Carson City resident. I ask that my comments today be entered into public record. I want to raise a concern that is beyond any single agenda item and speaks to the magnitude of the decisions being discussed and the public's role in them. A new city hall is not a routine project. It's not a civic decision. It is a civic decision with long-term impacts in downtown form, infrastructure, traffic, and character. It's also a major financial commitment that will obligate this community for decades through construction costs, financing, operations, and maintenance. Yet neither the Planning Commission nor the public has been formally presented with the true needs of the city's offices, alternative options, and long-term financial implications of such a project. Despite that, recent reporting indicates that the City Hall has already been cited as justification for other planning decisions, even though the project itself has not been formally approved, publicly presented, or clearly defined. When a project of this scale is treated as an assumption rather than a proposal, the public is placed in a reactive position instead of being meaningfully involved from the beginning. Good governance requires transparency before commitment. Before moving forward with the new City Hall, the city should assess and present the actual space needs of city departments, evaluate renovation or consolidation alternatives, and clearly disclose the full long-term cost. It is also concerning to residents when public reports suggest that executive recommendations are being made contrary to prior staff findings and that major decisions may be justified by projects that are not yet on the books or subject to public review. Given the size and lasting financial impact of a decision like City Hall, it is reasonable for residents to expect a formal process, meaningful input before conclusions are drawn. Decisions of this magnitude should not advance ahead of public understanding or consent. This is not about opposing City Hall. It's about assuring the public is informed, engaged, and respected before a commitment is made that will shape Carson City for generations. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, we don't do that. Thank you. I don't have anyone else signed up for opening public comment, but let me just in case. Okay, then we're going to move on to the agenda. We're on item 6, which is approval of our minutes. Does any member have any changes, corrections? Supervisor Giomi, a motion, please.
Yeah, there is one
Oh, you have a correction?
correction that I forwarded to Bree with the misspelling of Tom Grundy's name. So
Oh.
with that, I will move to approve the corrected meeting minutes from the Board of Supervisors for the 6th of January, 2026, otherwise as presented.
I have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect that was unanimous. Okay, if you'll join me on the floor, we will do our proclamation. Oops, we need that. I need this one. This is always fun. It's money.
Take a look at 20 on page 181, where it says we're supposed to consider the record and evidence submitted to the commission.
Hi, how you doing?
Good day. Here we go. Okay, so this morning it's whereas Carson City's quality of life attracts talented and loyal employees. Whereas every day Carson City employees put to use their broad array of skills and expertise with efficiency and integrity for the benefit of everyone in our city. Whereas we owe a substantial debt of gratitude to the Carson City employees and applaud those who go above and beyond in their loyalty and ability. Whereas Charlene, who is dedicated to the safety and well-being of individuals in our detention facility, goes above and beyond, demonstrating exemplary commitment in all aspects of her profession, thereby contributing to the fulfillment of the city's mission, values, and vision. Now, therefore, I, Lori Bagwell, Mayor of Carson City, celebrate the dedicated accomplishments of Charlene Froschler in serving the community and do hereby proclaim it, she is the employee of the quarter. Yay, come on up, isn't that? Right? Woohoo! And it's real. She is absolutely dedicated, and Kenny will tell you what a great superstar she is. But
For both Allie and I, for juvenile and for the adult side. Gosh, what a fresh person. Always a smile on her face, never a challenge, just pushing forward. So deserving. Allie, come on up here for a second. We are so blessed to have her. Yes, there's tragedies from time to time. And when I've seen her and I've witnessed her confronting those tragedies, it's just amazing. But on a day-to-day basis, her along with the rest of this medical staff working at the sheriff's office and at juvenile detention, This is a phenomenal recognition, so thank you, Shar.
Right? And how does this happen? We actually give you small dollars, but we do give you a few, right? Who's got the check? Come on over. Right? Thank you for all you do for the city. It is so appreciated, right? You're such a great role model. Oh, we bringing the dog in? Thank you so much.
The closet cat in the drive-through.
Oh, everything anymore. Give it just a moment. Okay, we're going to continue on the agenda. We're on our consent agenda. I didn't receive a request, so we're good. Supervisor Giomi, a motion, please.
Move to approve the consent agenda consisting of item 8A, 9A, 9B, 10A, 11A, and 12A, all as presented.
I have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Okay, we're now on to agenda item 13A, and it looks like a huge, big number, Sherry. I wish it was unobligated cash, but let's talk about our budget augmentations moving forward from last year to this year. Ms.
Good
Benaboo.
morning. Thank you. So yes, it's 187 million. It seems like a huge number. Only 7,177,000 is general fund of that big number. So this year we've got 1.6 million in restricted. I'm asking for some contingency, $1 million to add to contingency. There's also $1 million we're setting aside for street and highway funds for future years to try to match and make sure we spend the same amount in each region, each district. And then I was asking to set aside some money for moving Munis to the cloud, but we've decided it's best to run that through the capital program. So I think it was only 77,000 that was going towards that that cloud program. So we'll be moving that to my capital recommendation as of today. The weird things, there's always some weird things in the general fund that we're moving forward. There's extraordinary court cases of $75,000. This has been rolling forward for a few years. It's a capital murder case that they're hoping to extradite him and get him back here, and we never know when that's going to happen. So we keep rolling it forward. There's professional services for the municipal code update is $125,000 that came to IFC. There is software maintenance for the Civic Plus and Madison AI. That was only $26,800. The China Springs contract increased $90,764. And then software maintenance, originally I was asking $285,900, so that will be reduced by about $77,000. Unfortunately, when we did the budget, we did not include all of the software maintenance that was purchased in the 210 fund and paid for in the 210 fund, and now it's got to be in operating. So it's about $200,000 that we need to increase that budget by. And then there was a little error with fleet management for $4,950. So those were the weird things. I am recommending close to, where's my number? $2.9 million, almost $3 million with that 77,000 added, be moved to capital for 2027 to be able to afford some capital in that year. Are there any questions on the general fund? That's kind of the biggest, our operating fund. I will talk about the capital projects fund a little bit because there is $23 million rolling forward in the capital projects fund. And so there's quite a bit in the landfill site as we get ready for the transfer station. And then there is a little bit for the EOC because it wasn't, there's still some costs waiting to be finalized at 6:30. The building wasn't actually available to be occupied till September, so there's just a little bit from June to September, and then break fix from savings on projects, and we earned a ton of interest. Interest was 1.4 million in the capital fund, and then we had some a little bit of excess taxes that we received. So the break fix is $2,132,000. I plan to, most of that will end up being capital for 2027. I mean, I'll keep a little for break fix for this year, just in case something goes haywire. But most of it will hopefully end up being capital, which I'm hoping will leave about $5 million for capital. I mean, as you know, that's kind of our facilities maintenance annual cost. So that doesn't include equipment or cars or anything. So that at least gives us enough to do some facilities for next year. From IFC, there are just some fixes. There was a metal door at Station 51, a main breaker at Station 52. The MAC sign was vandalized, and so we're retrofitting it and getting a new sign in there. And then there was a compliance officer vehicle that was totaled, not the officer's fault, but it was an older vehicle, so unfortunately the reimbursement from insurance is pretty small. So it's $35,500 for that. Our largest one is, of course, the grants fund, and that's about $13 million. And that's because we're carrying over what wasn't used for June 30th, but we're also picking up the federal grants that ended September 30th, and we got a bunch of new grants. So we're adding those in too. And then, are there any other questions on this? I can keep going down my list, or?
Just keep going, I'll watch.
Okay. The infrastructure tax fund, that's for our corridor projects. There's a RAISE grant that we keep rolling forward on that, 11.3 million. And then the carryover on the corridor projects is 9.7 million. The vast majority of that is the William Street project at 7.3 million, which should be kicking off here in the spring. Extraordinary maintenance, that is $10 million moving forward. There's a few projects in there that are about $1 million that are moving forward to be completed, but the space needs savings is about $10.7 million. And then we have utility projects, which are pretty standard, and water projects, which are pretty standard. Yeah, unless there's any specific questions, the rest of it's pretty standard.
So I just have a question in general. After we complete the augmentations, are we hitting the target of where we anticipated being for the fund balance in each of those, or the working capital in those funds? We're doing. Yes. We're on target.
Yes.
Good.
Especially for the enterprise funds, because those fiscal policies have to go to the UFOC committee. And so so we actually ensure that we make those financial targets and have that set aside. For the general fund, we definitely are, I believe, we're still at 15.2% instead of the original budget of 15.5%, because we're adding a little bit of expenses to the general fund. So yeah, we're still meeting all of our financial policies.
And then just for clarification, mostly for the public, because sometimes a comment's made and people might misunderstand. So in the extraordinary maintenance fund, when you talk about the project that we're saving the money for, I think it's important that no one misunderstand what the project is. So for our juvenile facility, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I just think
Yes.
I think we know it because we live, eat, and breathe the numbers, but just for the public, I think
Yes.
it's good to say we've been saving that money for years in extraordinary maintenance to accomplish this goal, so,
Yes.
and
And
certainly
discussing it
there was
for
a contract
years.
to get it started, but
Yes, and discussing it for years, and it is a true need. There's a PREA that we are compliant with, but it would be a lot easier if we had separate wings. So yeah.
thank you. I just thought it was important that no one misunderstand what that was. So I don't see that anyone has any questions. Is there any public comment on this item? So I will then bring it back up here and accept a motion to do this resolution as amended on the record. Somebody want to make that? Supervisor Shute?
I move to adopt Resolution 2026-R-4 as amended on the record.
I have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Thank you, Ms. Benaboo. Okay, this is one of our fun annual projects and reports that we do. So discussion and possible action regarding the Historic Resources Commission. Come on up. I see Mr. Drews and Heather. Can I give us a overview?
Heather Ferris. I staff the HRC, but I'll hand it over to Mike to do the presentation, and I'm here for any questions.
Bet. Hi, Mike.
Thank you, Heather. Madam Mayor, Board, I'm here to present the
Sure you are.
Historic Resources Commission Annual Report for 2025. The board approved it at our January meeting this year. So with that, we've been around since 1982, or since 1981. The district itself was formed in 82. The commission is comprised of 7 members, including historic or building design professionals, cultural resource professionals, as well as the general public. This year we held 7 meetings and received 39 applications. Almost half of those, 19, were approved administratively, which really helps the public with not having to come to meetings and talk about putting a new roof on or something like that. Most of the administrative approvals are things that meet our standards. They're re-roofing projects, they're fences, signs, minor maintenance, and things in the historic district that just meet our standards and guidelines and National Register standards and guidelines. We can improve those without having to go through a whole meeting. We did our preservation awards again this year, thanks to the board's support of that. This year we nominated Jed Block and Bobby Benson for her house on the Mattie Ferris Schultz house on Division Street. Did a great job on that. And I can't say enough about Jed. He's just, you see him around town on his scooter all the time now. He's Mr. Carson City history and really deserved to be recognized for that. We did our scavenger hunt again last year in coordination with National Historic Preservation Month. Last year we focused on front entries, porches, entry doors, and sidewalks and transportation features within the district. We had 22 submissions, and John Chamberlain was awarded the lunch at Fox Brew Pub for completing everything correctly. We want to thank the Fox Brew Pub again for helping us sponsor that. We're working with the State Historic Preservation Office for funds for the National Alliance of Preservation Commissions Forum I believe it's in Minneapolis this year. We'll get funding for that. We'll see how many members would like to, we usually send 2 or 3, some staff to those. It's a really great training. It brings together all the preservation commissions across the country. We can exchange ideas and work on things. And one of our upcoming work programs, kind of ongoing, is dealing with historic windows and development standards for those. That's something that's brought up at that NAPC forum all the time. Every Preservation Commission struggles with that. So that's pretty much what we've done. We're moving forward again this year. I want to thank you for all of your support that you've given us. The board can't do it without your support, so thank you.
So, Mike, why are windows such an issue? Is it getting more and more difficult to actually fabricate them to
Well,
the historic
yeah.
measure, or
They're-
what's
they're-
the issue?
They're an historic fabric of the house, and there's not a whole, I mean, there used to be people who would, have a mill and they would make windows and things like that. Now with energy efficiency, everybody thinks that dual pane windows are the best energy efficient way to manage your windows. I mean, old windows get stuck, the panes break, things like that. There's been a lot of studies that suggest putting a storm window on your door or on your window is actually more efficient than putting in double pane windows. The materials they use leak more and things like that. If you get a double pane or a storm window with a 3-inch gap, you're actually saving a lot more energy. The problem is nobody wants to touch windows that have lead-based paint on them. And there's nobody around who will fabricate new pieces and things like that. So it's a balance. It's how do we,
Maintain the
how do we
historic,
maintain the historic
right?
and still it's private property. And it's just trying to figure out how to balance the two.
Well, and I want to tell you, don't let it go to Jed's head, but his
It's too
house
late.
will be the ornament this year. So you guys heard it here first.
Great.
Yeah, right? Finally, I thought, well, if Mike and team can give him an award, I can
Yeah.
let him have the ornament. So I'm super excited to be working on that with Jeannie to design with Jed.
He'll
So
love it.
he's in cloud at the top up there. Yay! So I look forward to seeing what we can come up with for his ornament.
Great. Thanks, Lori.
Thank you so much. Supervisor Horton?
Hi, Mike.
Hey,
I just want to take a minute and say thank you for all the hard work that you're doing and your committee. I know you guys really put a lot of effort into it, and it means a lot to myself, and I know the rest of us. So thank you very much for all your teams.
Thank you. The commission really enjoys it. They love their work, so.
Okay, thank you. Is there any public comment on this item? No? Okay, we'll bring it up for a motion to, oh, I'm sorry. Denny, did you want to make public comment?
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Okay.
I'd like to add my appreciation to the historical preservation individuals. I've been to their meetings and the involvement that's there, the historical understanding and the building and the materials and the timing and all of that. The coordination is amazing. I appreciate it very much. They're a fine team and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, just one last chance in case there was someone else. Okay, a motion, please. Curtis, you want to make that one?
Sure. I move to accept the annual report.
I have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Thank you again, Mike, for all your hard work. And your whole team. Please let them know how much we appreciate it. Thanks. Okay, we're now moving on to agenda item 15A, discussion and possible action regarding a recommendation from the Planning Commission to deny a request for a master plan amendment to change the master plan's text of policy for DTMU 1.6 by removing the reference to the state office complex expansion, and text of policy 6.3B by removing the state office complex from the downtown character area, and the exhibit of the downtown character area map by removing the state office complex from this map. Boy, I got that one out. Mr. Martell, your presentation, please.
Thank you, Mayor, and good morning, Board. For the record, Glenn Martell, City Manager. As stated in my staff report, I believe there was enough evidence on the record to support the required finding 3. Based on this belief, I am recommending that this board decline the Planning Commission's recommendations to deny the amendment request. This belief is partially founded on the following. The state of Nevada's long-term planning efforts throughout at least 2 legislative sessions. The site's connections to the city's existing and proposed pedestrian, walking paths, bicycle lanes, and public bus stops. A walkable mall that provides internal connectivity while supporting gatherings that encourage community interaction. The protection of the historic gym and a landscaping palette that is supportive of the city's goals. Additionally, I believe the further development of this public-public partnership and the retention of 1,200 jobs in Carson City adds to Carson City's economic stability and prosperity. Assuming that even a portion of the employees working on the campus are residents, the direct overall economic impact to the city approaches $30 million on a yearly basis. These actions and more occur due to the state's commitment to the capital city. Approving the master plan amendment request with the underlying zoning and engineering requirements remaining in place has no appreciable bearing on the quality or safety of the proposed campus or its positive contribution to Carson City. If there are no immediate questions for me, I would like to introduce Jack Robb and Brian Walker from the state of Nevada, the real party in interest. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any questions, so Mr. Robb.
My name is Jack Robb. I'm Chief Innovation Officer in Governor Lombardo's office, and I want to go over why this project is important and why now. I don't think a lot of you realize the state has 71 leases in Carson City right now, totaling 706,000 square feet. We have 2,906 employees in leased office space. 50 of those leases come due prior to September of 2027, so now is a good time to really start making some moves. On a statewide average, I haven't calculated it for Carson City alone, but on a statewide average, over 50% of our leased property is owned by non-resident owners or corporations. So the second we pay that lease payment, that money leaves the state of Nevada to never recycle. It doesn't flip back around. And another key point is every year that we lease a building, if we lease the entire, every 8 years, we lease a building. If we lease the entire building, 8 years worth of lease pretty much equals the full value of that property. And if you look at some of these leases we've been in for 40 plus years, we bought those properties multiple times over. So we're trying to do a shift as the state of Nevada into owned facilities. How did the city and the state get to where we are today? I can tell you both the city and the state have gone through long public processes. Both the city and the state want to do something better for the citizens and the employees of the state. What happened was these two ideas ran in parallel for a long time and they didn't intersect. I have heard multiple times recently that I attended a meeting on this particular subject. It was a few years back. I didn't even remember the meeting until I was reminded I was at the meeting. What I'm going to say is there's communication, but a lot of times the communication does not come understanding. What was communicated is not what I understood in that meeting. Had I known the long-term ramifications where we'd be and end up in a meeting like today, we would have had further discussion at that point. The state has been planning a capital mall for decades. The Bryan building was built over 20 years ago and it was supposed to be the first of many to come. We've heard about cooperation and trust. I can tell you the state does understand cooperation and trust with counties and cities. One site in particular, the site we're speaking of today, we cooperated well with the city. I heard for years about the abandoned buildings there. I know your board heard about them. We need to do something about those. The state has done something about those. Not only did we do something about those, we worked with the local fire department, with first responders, to conduct drills there before we demoed them. That's cooperation. We are also looking to get more components back on more properties, back onto your tax rolls. We have bought a few properties and that has an impact on your overall taxes. But we're looking to put 12.72 acres, the old armory property, back on the tax rolls, dispose of that property. So it can be on the tax rolls and you can get a commercial development in there to gain taxes for here into the future. We're working for land exchanges and sale of land for open space and trailheads, help with construction of roundabouts that I heard this morning. We're neighbors, but we rely on each other. We have land, you guys have land. There's things we need to do together to help both parties. The state is committing to over $100 million in downtown. As Mr. Martell mentioned, we have this project that is in front of you today, but we have a project coming right behind it that's in the planning phase. It's been funded for planning. We're going to go to the legislature to get funding for build next time. We're looking to have 4 buildings downtown, approximately 1,300 or plus employees downtown Carson City. So it's a major commitment we have now. $100 million first project, probably equivalent second project. So it's a big commitment, a commitment the state has not made in Carson City for over 20 years with the Bryan Building. As Chief Innovation Officer, my job is to provide quality buildings to house our state staff. A quality work environment and work location is key to recruitment and retention of employees. And that's one of the major things that my job's supposed to do. My job is to spend tax dollars wisely, build economically feasible and long-lasting buildings that are easy to maintain into the future, and above all, safe locations for our employees and the people that come for service in the state of Nevada. A lot of our design was centered around crime prevention through environmental design. The world we live in is not the world we grew up in. Building design is paramount for the safety. Building setback, berms, other things associated with it provide government offices that add a level of security. The state is building something we can all be proud of. This is your town, your home. It's our state capital. The buildings we're putting in place will be a place that visitors and residents can walk and enjoy. It's going to be a place that's a quality workplace for your family members, your neighbors, your friends, and a quality location that serve the citizens of the state of Nevada. It will be a true capital mall. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Brian Walker and have him do anything that I may have missed.
Mr. Walker.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Jack. Thank you, board. Good morning. I'm Brian Walker, Deputy Administrator for the State Public Works Division. So yeah, I'd like to follow up on Jack's comments with some additional information to tie into our agenda item. So what I want to start with first is some things that were in your staff report, just to kind of recap, kind of the history and process that we followed to get to today. So, the state of Nevada has a capital complex master plan. The last update that we did was in 2022. And, a key recommendation from that plan was to transition state employees into state-owned buildings. This 2022 master plan is not a new document for us. It's something that we update periodically, and really the capital complex vision in that plan follows really decades of planning that the state has had to have a capital complex buildings with a central mall, essentially. This vision I know has been shared with Carson City in the past. Like Jack said, the last building was 2005. So it's been a minute since we've done something, but it is a plan that we have shared in the past. As a result of this plan, state of Nevada took action. There was a capital improvement program request, or CIP request, in spring 2022. And as a result of that, the Nevada legislature funded this project that we've been talking about in spring 2023. We've been working on this project for a little while. Design started and actually changed, and was changed at the Interim Finance Committee, which is a body of the legislature, in September 2024. The project that we've presented over the last couple months is something we started design on in spring 2025. So I wanted to reiterate that timeline, and it's important because it shows the length and the public process that the state takes before bringing something to Carson City. Now, on the Carson City side, Carson City has a master plan as well. We appreciate it, and it was adopted in May 2025. And kind of the conversation we're having today about it is we did not understand how the city intended to apply that master plan to our project until we submitted our SUP and first had public meetings in November 2025. In December, we also learned the city intended to amend the master plan text to adjust how the term jurisdiction is handled in that master plan. And I think in many ways rightly so. So in response, the state requested to be removed from the downtown character map. So I went over that again because we believe that is really the foundation on the change in conditions report that the Planning Commission struggled to make in finding 3. So I also want to say what we're doing, this is not intended to be an end around for the process. We very much believe in the public due process, and we want to be a part of it, both on our side, on our state side, on our state process, and, as a partner with Carson City on your process. I think what is a key takeaway is we have not built a building in Carson City, a large building, since 2005. And so that is something, I'm thinking 21 years. So it's been a minute. And so this is a little bit of a result as it's coming back together and trying to understand how our two public bodies work with each other and how we interact. So the requested master plan amendment helps clarify this process for us, we believe. So removing the Capitol complex from the downtown character map provides flexibility for the state to develop the area as outlined in the state master plan. I'd also like to remind the board that the Carson City Master Plan Section 6.3D recognizes and encourages support of the state master plan. So it is something that is pointed out explicitly in the master plan. And we believe that removing the Capitol complex from the Carson City's master plan acknowledges the state's unique role as a separate public body with our own authority having jurisdiction, or AHJ, in contrast to other private property owners and developers. So at the state, we have our own state building official. When we build this project, we issue our own permit. We don't come to Carson City for a building permit, which is a different situation. So it's a position that the downtown character requirement prevents the state from developing the Capitol complex as identified in our master plan. So this is why when Carson City proposes to change how the jurisdiction is handled, we respond by requesting to be removed from the downtown character map. Not the entire master plan, not the entire process. We're just talking about the map. And so we still want to be part of the process. It's our intent to work collaboratively with Carson City on this and future projects and ensure compatibility with Carson City's needs. As Mr. Robb outlined, the state has a vision for the Capitol complex in Carson City. And, I believe this vision provides a centralized, pedestrian-friendly environment for state workers and Carson City residents that I do think does conform with the intent of the Carson City Master Plan, especially with this amendment, and for the good of Carson City. I guess with that, we're ready for your questions. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. So I want to just step back just a little bit because you're asking us to make a finding for condition number 3. And so in my mind, I need just some date issues because I also feel that potentially it's not really fair to hold you accountable retroactively. That's something that happens, I know, at the state and many things that we do. It's hard to hold someone accountable to design a building or something knowing where we were going to go in the master plan. And one of the things, I just need a little bit of evidence to tell me that you were already in the stage of planning and doing this building. And so one thing that was, I think you touched on it slightly, but very important to me, and I'm pretty sure the governor's office will tell you that the mayor was pretty adamant that we were going to eliminate those lovely cottages that had been a blight on that property for, I don't know, 16 years. And so can you tell me when you got the permit to demolish or when that process began? Because I think that will help provide the evidence that this was already on its path before we adopted the master plan, unless I've got dates wrong, but.
No, yeah, no, thank you, Mayor, for that question. So the demolition of those cottages it's actually a separate project that was funded by the 2023 legislature. And so the timeline to demolish those cottages actually started back in 2022, funded in summer 2023. Because we have our own building permit process, we went through that process, and it's a funny thing to say. Even though we're demolishing buildings, we have to design the demolishment. I'm not sure if that's a word.
That's okay.
But it sounds right when I say
Yeah.
it. Demolition, I know.
There you
But
go.
you design the demolition. I like demolishment. But we did start that process, and that process, started ahead of when we even saw the final Carson City Master Plan. And we did that project in preparation for these buildings. That was something that we really started and obtained our final kind of permits and bids in spring of last year, spring 25, and finished that this last fall. I think it was about the September or so timeframe that a lot of those cottages, you initially would see those coming down. So it is something that we've, really maneuvered and set up many of our different processes and fundings to get ready for these buildings over the last several years.
Okay. I just, again, think that's very important for me to understand processes and determine whether or not there were things unknown at the time that we did the master plan or things that you weren't aware, right? Because we're trying to determine if we can meet a condition, which is what changed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's important that we get those types of things on the record. And so I want to talk a little bit about, I'm trying to get through comments that I've been reading, and I think it's important that things get on the record so that the entire public has an opportunity to understand the methods and the ways and the reasons. And so when you talk, so I'll just do it plainly, the Planning Commission was concerned that you were not giving them the master plan and they wanted the detail. And so I think that they were expecting to get a document like the city produces for a master plan, right? That you can go online and I can go to the 2022 master plan of the state and I can hit the button and there you go. You're going to see, here's the 19 properties in Carson. But you don't have that type of document. Is that correct?
Jack Robb for the record. I've come from utilities, municipalities, watched utilities, municipalities, cities, states do a ton of plans. They spend more time doing planning than action. My governor ran on one thing, and it's get stuff done. We could spend time developing a plan and spend years doing that, or get something on the ground. I can tell you when I came into the role as Director of Department Administration in 2023, January 2023, I was over the Public Division and multiple other divisions. They had a standing master plan of a Capitol Mall going from 515 Musser Street down through the Bryan Building down to the NDOT's building. Multi-story buildings lined with an internal park. So that well predated me. It was the type of plan you speak of. When Mr. Walker talks about the plan changed, we were looking at a 5-6-story building right behind 515 Musser in the old Kincaid site. We looked at value of that and timing and multi-story building construction. And there was some discussion about having something that tall adjacent to the Capitol that may overshadow the Capitol from different viewpoints in town. We elected to change location, still stay within what was the old master plan that had been presented to me in 2023 of a Capitol Mall internal, removing some old buildings and making things happen to have a Capitol Mall. So there is a plan, but that plan has been updated, but we spent the time in getting stuff done instead of developing a new plan.
No, I really appreciate that because, again, I think it's important because, we answer to the public too, right? And ours are pretty used to our process. How does the Board of Supervisor deal with things? And so I think there just was expectations. And when those weren't met, I don't think they understood that that's not the way the state presents. You really go through a CIP process at the Nevada legislature and oftentimes have to take projects back several times before they even can get funded. And more of that is with maps or schematics, things of just the future and saying, okay, we're going to house so many employees. Can you talk to us about the number of employees that you're anticipating? Is there phasing of the project? Because I think, again, as much as we can get on the record, I want that for the benefit of the public. Many of us spend many hours pouring through documents and looking at public meetings at the legislature, and we participate in those types of things, but they don't necessarily do that. So can you walk us through, and I'm not sure, we can put it up, the map, what they're going to do on the screen? No? Yes? I just think what I'm interested in is, because the first one you gave at the Planning Commission level was just the 2 buildings.
Correct.
The middle. And then the Planning Commission asked you to present the fuller master plan. So you came back and provided, and I think that's where, I think the word might be sideways. I'll use one word too, right? How did we get a little bit sideways on what people thought? So you submitted what you thought was a master plan with the other phases for that parcel. I'm not sure everyone understood that was the new master plan. So I'm just asking you to kind of walk us through that, what the plan is for that parcel. If we can't get it, then we'll imagine it with you. But is it four buildings in the end? I'm trying to get for the public to understand the importance of the project, how you are a partner with the city, and what your long-term goal is for that parcel.
Jack Grubb for the record. The first 2 buildings that are in front of you today, not the next 2 that are in planning right now. The first 2, each one of them is 64,000 square foot apiece, so 128,000 square feet of building. Each building, we've done a furniture design for, an office layout furniture design, and in total, each building fits 401 individuals. So it'll be 802 in the first 2 buildings. The third build, and then a parking garage, adjacent parking garage. And then the third building that will be down, I don't know your streets as well as I should, but Roop and Little Lane. That will be a mirror of the 2 buildings we're doing now, approximate same size, same floor plan. So you're looking at another 400 to 410, depending on how the new building lays out. And then we're going to have more right behind where the fire station is, more an executives type office for leadership of different agencies to be in. It is slated to be a 3-story building with a parking garage between the existing Bryan building and the third building to be constructed. So there will be 2 parking garages, 4 total office buildings. I want to talk about parking here for a second. Parking is a major component. I think we all recognize Carson City, we have a parking deficit in a lot of locations. And we're putting 802 people in the first 2 buildings. Right now, our parking component is designed for 734. Any change to the maps that we have, we start losing parking. We bought the McCarran campus in Southern Nevada. We've watched how the parking performs down there, and I don't need 1 for 1. The state needs about 80% because you have vacant positions, you have vacations, you have sick leave, you have other things going on, people off-site for doctor's appointment. If we can get to an 80%, we're pretty good. We go below that, we're in parking deficit. And that was one of the major rubs in this whole process, is how the parking was designed. And we cannot lose parking. We're 802, 734. And when we build the next ones, we're going to be right about that same ratio. I've heard discussion, we'll just make the parking garage bigger. My job is to do things economically also. At a minimum, parking space in a parking garage costs you $35,000 to build. I've seen some costs in other places go to $50,000 depending on soil types and other things. So they get quite expensive fast per parking place. So the more we can utilize this site in an economical fashion, the better off we are. And the more product we can get on the ground, the more office space and the more people we can house in that location.
When you talk about the leases that are expiring, many of them, can you tell me where some of those are located? Because I'm kind of interested in where existing employees will leave, which buildings they will leave to come into these ones.
Jack Rudd for the record. One of the major dilemmas the state has is we grow incrementally. The last legislative session, they added 635 new positions in the 2025 session, so each agency gets a few. So when you grow incrementally like that, you get into a 7 to 10 year lease, and then you're giving more people and you're stuffed in that building. So then you go get another lease and then you stuff that building. We have agencies operating out of 4 or 5 buildings in different parts of town. Our goal in what we're doing here is to co-locate agencies and work with landlords and lease space. There's no way we can build our way out of this situation. We don't have the money or the time to replace 700,000 square feet in Carson City. So we're going to have to continue to work with landlords. To co-locate, we're slating first Department of Health Services or Human Services. They've changed their name lately. Apologize for that. But do 2 twin buildings off Technology, we're going to relocate them into this location. They have some staff down off of Fairview that they're all timing out at about the same time. So we're going to take multiple locations of one agency and put them into one location. We've done this multiple times now. When we bought the Arrowhead building, if you look at 1550 College Parkway, it was a building in disarray that taxation and cannabis were in, and they needed out. They needed out bad. That building was not in a good place. But to the landlord's defense, it's hard to do a major upgrade on a building when staff was sitting there, and we had no place else to put staff so they could do the major upgrade. So we moved cannabis and taxation to the new Arrowhead building, the old Harley building, worked with the landlord. They put $1.5 million in tenant improvements in there. 5 different buildings of aging and disability services are now co-located in a 40,000 square foot building. The agency that moved out thought it was the worst building in Carson City. The agency that moved in 8 months later thought it was the best building they've ever been in Carson City. So we have some hopscotch. We're not abandoning the landlords. We're giving the landlords the ability to make proper repairs to their buildings. And like I said, we can't build our way out of this. So it's a phased approach we have to do. We've done it in 1919, College Parkway. We continue to move people around to co-locate and make ourselves more efficient and allow for the upgrades to the buildings that need to be done.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have some questions they'd like? Want me to take some public? Okay. Thank you so much. I'll call you back up if something jumps off after public comment. Okay, I'll take, let's see. I have Kathleen Beasley that's requested public comment on this item. Good morning, Kathleen.
So my name is Kathleen Beasley. I'm a resident of Carson City, and I've already submitted my written testimony regarding this item. So my verbal remarks are going to focus on the city manager's report and mostly about finding 3 and why I believe that nothing has changed and that the Planning Commission made the right decision. It's actually depressing to read his report because I've heard a lot of interviews with him and read a lot about him, and I know he's a bright, capable man that wants to do good things for Carson City. However, I was going to recall his report specious, but specious means that it has surface plausibility and is false underneath, and I don't even find surface plausibility here. The city manager speaks at great length about what the city didn't know at the time the master plan was adopted in May of 2015. As I think Mayor Bagwell's questions have made pretty evident, is that everybody did know. Actually, the plan to build that state complex was released at least in March because that's when they went out for bid on the demolition. And that's when news stories hit. And you knew about it well before then. So this whole idea that there's some failure on the city to understand what was going on and that somehow impacted their decision on in May of 2025 just doesn't make sense. And in fact, what makes it kind of worse is why would that impact the language that has been in the master plan for a long time that the city and the state will work together? So why do they need to be eliminated from this? The wording was there. Everyone knew this project was moving forward. It's kind of silly on its surface. We'll just use silly. That's a nice non-pejorative word to pretend that the city didn't know this was happening and therefore they would have done something different. Okay, then he gets to an argument that this is better than vacant land. This is kind of a meaningless argument. Nobody is suggesting that the land is going to stay vacant. The state has just said it's not going to pick up and move. It's not going to pick up and take those jobs somewhere else. And then finally, there's this little meaning to this idea that we're adding to the workforce. It's a consolidation of jobs that already exist. And if there are new jobs, to be quite frank, that won't be surprising, right? I mean, that's what state government does better than anything. So I just have to say that the city manager seems to have struggled to write something that would allow the supervisors to reach a decision that doesn't make sense. Look, politicians manipulate. All that I ask is that you do it with a little bit of finesse. This shows absolutely no finesse. I feel like Dorothy when Toto has pulled back the curtain and there's nothing but humbug there. It just doesn't make sense. And I encourage you to stick with what the Planning Commission said because what they did was rational.
Thank you. Ms. Owens?
Sandra Owens. So at the Planning Commission meeting on the 28th, the word trust came up repeatedly. One commissioner compared the situation to a bad relationship, even joking as like, put a ring on it. You know, that comment stayed with me because even though it was said lightly, the issue underneath is serious. Trust matters. In any relationship, whether it's personal or civic, Trust isn't built by asking someone to accept partial truths and promises of clarity later. When information comes in pieces, when justifications rely on projects that the public hasn't seen, and when explanations change after a vote is taken, natural human response is to ask, why? Why won't this be fully shared? Why now, not before? Why does it feel like we're not being why we're asking to commit without the full picture? This questioning isn't hostility, it's instinct. Right now, many residents feel like we're in a relationship with our own government, where we're being asked to trust, but we're not giving the transparency that trust requires. That's a difficult place to be with people we elect to represent us, regardless whether they are term limited and not up for re-election. We live in Nevada. Carson City is in Nevada. This is our town. We pay for the taxes that support the infrastructure, roads, and services that make large projects possible. We accept the impacts, we live with the outcomes, and because of that, the voices of Carson City residents and the rules that we put in place to protect our community should not be treated as obstacles to work around or standards to relax when they become inconvenient. I've been told that the person running this project is too powerful, that these decisions are already made, and that showing up to these meetings is a waste of my time. I don't want to believe that. But with a unanimous Planning Commission decision is followed just 2 days later by a recommendation to reverse course using the same record, it feeds that perception. That perception is dangerous. Because when residents begin to believe that outcomes are predetermined, that influence outweighs process, and that the perception no longer matters, trust doesn't just erode, it collapses. I want to believe that this board has the residents' best interests at heart, that working collaboratively with the state doesn't mean sidelining the public and weakening the protections that we rely on. The remaining supervisors are accountable to the voters. The residents of Carson City are watching. We want to know that the rules are equally applied, and not only when they become inconvenient. If this board truly believes new information exists, the appropriate action is to remand this matter back to the Planning Commission. Overriding a unanimous vote without evidence of error undermines the purpose of the Planning Commission altogether. When a unanimous Planning Commission vote can be reversed
so
without
much.
new facts or errors, the question is no longer about the amendment, but whether the public process itself has meaning.
Thank you.
Thank you for interrupting me.
You get the same as everyone else. I don't have anyone else signed up, but certainly.
Good morning,
Good morning.
Mayor and Board. My name is Maita Sanchez. I am a Carson City resident, small business owner. Want to reiterate some of the public comment that has already been given here. I want to say on the onset that this comment is not in opposition to state plan or planning. I just wanted to offer a reflection on process. So I believe that Carson City did take the time to develop the master plan, to approve it, to place the Planning Commission in place for review of those plans. And I believe that today, if we were to move forward in such a way that we could override process within our community, again, eroding trust somewhat of the public comment before me. I think it's important that we recognize that this may be a governance problem. Those of us who step forward to serve, we do that with the responsibility that decisions are not going to be easy. They're complicated, tiered, but we have to make them fair. We have to make them transparent and worthy of public's trust. I fully recognize that negotiation is very hard. It takes a lot of time, which sometimes we do not have the honor of time. It requires compromise on all sides. It's uncomfortable, but that is exactly the responsibility that we accept, right? So understanding that the state does have unique needs, those needs should be addressed through transparent negotiation within the framework that was adopted, not by carving out an exemption. Negotiation says that we respect the process and we're willing to do the work. Exemption says, hey, the process applies until it doesn't. And once that line is crossed, it's very hard to explain to the next applicant why they have to follow the rules that others were allowed to bypass. And to clarify by what I mean by negotiation, I believe that already exists correct, in our planning system. So projects submit designs, they get feedback, planning commission, right? And if they can't be met, they request specific variances or project level expectations within public findings. I know it takes time, it's not easy. Local projects go through this all the time, and exemption would skip all of that. So we may create this two-tiered system, right? And at that point, Carson City is no longer the steward or driver of its own plan. So what I'm asking this morning is just to reflect on the governance issue, the process issue, not to reject collaboration, not to reject growth, but just to affirm that Carson City, we negotiate, we don't exempt, and we have to honor the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have anyone else? Ms. Peters?
Paula Peters, Carson City resident. Okay, so I understand how the meeting's going, but still, the bottom line is the report found that the state failed to meet finding 3, which requires that a proposed amendment addresses changes in condition since the plan's adoption. So all of this that went on before the adoption is irrelevant. Nothing has changed. So finding 3 still is not met. And also, from a personal point of view, being a property owner, we talk about all the jobs that come to Carson City with the state. A lot of these people don't live in Carson City. So maybe the state should consider building some of these buildings in other counties and let those folks pay for the infrastructure. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Danny, are you our last one? Come on up.
Thank you. Mayor and board, thank you very much for this opportunity. And looking back at the minutes from December 16th, there's a request for a temporary dropping of our suggested downtown character policy. And I'm still not given an answer as to why they feel they have to not be included in that suggestion. You know, Hope Sullivan, the Planning Commission, and I don't always agree, but I know they did their due diligence and they weren't given the same presentation that you received today from Mr. Lewis and Mr. Walker. And had they, maybe something might have changed. I don't think so. My direction, no matter what I've listened to, still poses the fact that the speakers before me have already said, so I won't go into those, but I ditto. This state has the right to use that property. What height, what design, what exterior, all matter. Also, what I fail to see in any of this is an environmental impact consideration, not only of avoidance of creating heat spots or islands from shadings to the height and loss of our natural resource is our view. And of course, when you build a building, it is going to block something. If you're closer to it, it blocks more. If you're a little further away, you can see better. But now to be able to see some of the hills, the mountains, etc., is going to be an issue. So I'm on that side of this, but I also think that the state has not come up with an answer that gives me any better understanding of why they need this. Is it that they're going to go wild with the height? They're going to go to 12 feet, or if they're going to go this? But the consolidation of staff means consolidation of traffic. It's going to take infrastructure. It's going to take more electricity. It's going to do all sorts of different things to our community. And I don't think we've had those proper answers, or at least it's not been covered. And I'm really sorry, but I think a lot of what was dug into as far as this map and stuff is sort of minutia, and it's covering the real fact that cooperation takes two parties in a two-person thing, and this is state and city, and I don't think that they've provided that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lapierre, were you going to make public comment? Okay. Just one last call, I want to make sure. Okay, then I'll bring it back up here. What we're going to do is, yep, that's okay. Sometimes that happens. We're going to take a brief recess so we can use the facilities. So we'll be back in about just as quickly as we can. So we're in recess. going to bring the Board of Supervisors back to order. So I just want to start with a clarification with this board, just so that we're talking from the same point. Are we all in agreement that we're just going to concentrate on finding 3 because finding 1, 2, 4, and 5 have been met and we're already done? You want to talk about those? I'm asking the process that you would like to. So if you don't want to just concentrate on 3 because you want to discuss the other ones,
I have some comments. on the
Supervisor
others.
White, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, you want me to go first?
Well, you had more than finding 3, so go ahead.
Well, I have a number of questions regarding procedure, not just question or
Go ahead.
finding 3. My first question, if you take a look at page 179, right there at the top of the page, number 5, it lists 3 different types of amendments. What sort of amendment are we even talking about here? Revise the land use map, revise the text of an element, and obviously we're not talking about adopting a new element, but what amendment are we talking about?
Ms. Sullivan, did you want to discuss or answer Mr. White's question?
The subject request is a text amendment.
B, 5B.
Amendment?
Yes.
Okay. If this master plan amendment is not approved, can the state, in some manner, build this project without the master plan amendment?
Depends.
I'll stay up here for a couple minutes. The subject property has a zoning of public, and pretty much all public land has a zoning designation of public. When you look at the public zoning, essentially everything over a certain threshold size, and my recollection is that size is 2,500 square feet, will require a special use permit. When you look at a special use permit, you then look at your findings of fact. In the findings of fact, and I believe it's the first finding of fact, you have compliance with the master plan. So what will happen is when the state pursues development of any land, honestly, then we have to look at the special use permit and findings of fact. We'll open the master plan and we will apply the standards of the master plan to that project. In this case, we are currently applying the standards of the downtown, I think it's called the downtown concept plan. And so if they are removed from the downtown, then the standards associated with the downtown will no longer apply to the development of that land. They'll still get a special use permit. So essentially what we're looking at in the state, I think spoke to it, and I think Brian Walker talked about the need for the flexibility. And in the record at the Planning Commission, Will Lewis talked about, I think he was talking about the need as part of, and Jack Robb alluded to it, as part of their safety program, I'll call it. They're seeking a certain type of design, and they find that that design is inconsistent with the downtown standards. So I think what the conflict is they have certain design standards based on safety that are in conflict with what the downtown is requiring. So could they build and still be in the downtown? Yes. Does that create a conflict? And I think what you heard today was an allusion, they alluded to, I think Brian said it, that the state's this unique creature, a little bit different than other creatures. And based on their safety demand, that was part of why they're seeking to be removed from the downtown. Did that answer your question?
But with the special use permit idea and cooperation of the Planning Commission, they could build what they want to build, right?
From a land use perspective, if the 7 findings of fact are found in the affirmative, yes, they can build, and any appeal of the Planning Commission's decision comes to this board.
Okay. On page 181, at number 16, Planning Commission shall refer a report to the Board of Supervisors. Where are we at with that? I haven't seen in the packet something that looks like a report.
The report you received from the city manager was the transmittal of the Planning Commission's recommendation to the board. We traditionally don't have the commission literally write their own report. What we have traditionally done, and this has come up in the past as well, you've asked similar questions, is the staff will identify for the benefit of the board what the recommendation of the Planning Commission was and provide that to the Board of Supervisors, and that is essentially the report of the Planning Commission. We carry forward to you what the Planning Commission reported out.
Also on page 181, number 20 there, the Board of Supervisors shall consider what is submitted to the Planning Commission. Now, I realize this is not the same thing as an appeal. This is us reviewing a recommendation from the Planning Commission, but I wonder, is all of this new information we're considering today appropriate to have a look at?
Per the code, the Board of Supervisors is required to conduct a public hearing on this matter. There are some matters where the Planning Commission may have a public hearing and the board does not. You are having your own public hearing, so you are collecting a bigger data set than the Planning Commission had. I had to publish in the newspaper, as you know, because we communicated last night about the publication. And so, yeah, that was, and the DA's office called me, has this been noticed? And we noticed this for a public hearing. So you are collecting your own data in addition to considering the data that was presented to the commission.
Okay. I just want to put out there the idea that people have insinuated today that the city did not know what the state had in mind for that property. Perhaps not any specifics were known, but I know that a few years ago, the city did get some funding to build a trail across that property that I understand the state rejected that plan because they were coming forward with this building master plan. I think for now, that's all that I have as far as questions on procedure.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. So I'm going to go back to my original question. Does anyone want to speak to any of the findings besides number 3? Does anybody want to? Is everybody okay with 1, 2, 4, and 5? The Planning Commission did.
Can I ask you what the harm is in just not shutting that discussion down?
I'm not
right
shutting
now?
it down.
Okay,
I just asked if somebody wants to take those first.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
That's all. I'm not shutting any down. That's why I'm
Okay.
asking the question.
I don't personally have any, but it doesn't mean something won't come up as
Okay,
we
at
talk.
this- all right.
That was my only
That's fine.
hesitancy in saying.
That's fine. Okay. Well, so
Since do you mind?
Go.
I just have
Go. Sure. Don't mind at all.
couple of things I wanted to comment on. You know, there's been quite a bit of comments about sending it back to the Planning Commission, and I understand that, but normally the Planning Commission's hearing on this was not a decision, it was a recommendation. Ultimately, it's the board's decision to make. So what the Planning Commission did was recommend to us, and there have been instances in the past where the Planning Commission has recommended things and we've accepted them, probably the majority of the time. And there have been times when that hasn't happened. But just as a point of order, that, that's just a comment. I've heard from some folks, not necessarily here today, about cost to the city and infrastructure cost to the city, and that's really not a factor. This is something the state is paying money for. It is taxpayers' money, to be sure, and I get that, but it isn't local money that's going to any part of this construction. They'll still have to connect our sewer, they'll still have to connect our water. So I want to mention that. The relationship between the state and the city has always been odd, and it's always been awkward. To kind of shoot off one of the comments that I've heard, it's a little like dating your cousin. It's something doesn't feel right about it, but we still do it because we're obligated to do it. I have some experience as the fire marshal here in this community, and it's an oddity that the state doesn't have to come to us for a building permit. They don't. They can issue their own building permits to themselves. And that's always felt odd to me. It's difficult as a regulator when you're a code enforcement person like Hope and her team, or me as a fire chief or fire marshal, to say something to them and they say, well, yeah, great, good idea. We don't have to do that. So I don't want to lose sight of the fact that this relationship between the state and the city is not like any relationship that the city has with private developers. It is not the same thing. And I don't know that that changes things. I don't know that it doesn't. I guess I'm just stating the obvious. It's not a normal thing. Hence my dating your cousin sort of thing. The question I have, and I want to go through a couple of elements of the master plan because I don't quite understand where the state isn't already meeting the mixed use requirements. And obviously I'm not reading the whole thing. It's 8 or 9 pages, but as you look at it, it talks about vertical mixed use, and in there I'll highlight parking facilities are often shared and integrated as parking structures. Parking facilities are centrally located and lots are shared. Connections to adjacent neighborhoods and commercial uses should be provided. Off-street parking should be discouraged. It's in, the downtown is designed to encourage an urban pattern of development. Large infill development projects that involve multiple blocks. The downtown area can have, it says, significant visual and physical impact. Incorporating clear pedestrian connections to surrounding areas, establishing relationships between buildings, which this seems like it does, and minimizing the impacts of parking. Public art, gathering spaces, outdoor plazas should be incorporated. Can someone answer what? Yes, I get the fact that the plan says, and let me find the parking component because I get that's part of an issue, but discouraging surface lots, I think is part of it. I understand the fact that the state has a concern about safety. Having worn the hat that I've worn before, I can appreciate that in a government building, it shouldn't be right up against the street. You can see all of the work that was done at the legislative building, to protect vehicles from getting close to that building. So I can appreciate that. But when I look at the master plan, the existing master plan, I don't see where it doesn't fit. I don't see what they're designing. And I believe, did the SUP not come forward for a hearing at one point?
Twice.
Or was it just?
Twice.
Yes. And
they denied it.
Doing that,
Right.
Couldn't you find almost all the elements that were met? I mean, what am I missing? Why do we even need to change it? That's what I don't get.
The Planning Commission has not taken action on the special use permit. The special use permit came before the Planning Commission, and they did have concerns about master plan consistency. I hear what you're saying. You're reaching a different conclusion than they did,
am.
and that's okay. What happened based on the conversation at the Planning Commission is the state, the annual report was coming before the Planning Commission. So the state said, well, as part of the annual report, let's just take ourselves out of the downtown. And I don't believe it's limited to just what's subject to the special use permit. It's a bigger area than that. So again, consistent with Supervisor White's comments and consistent with what you just said, what is before you is not a recommendation from the it's a recommendation from the Planning Commission. It's up to this board to make the decision. Ultimately, it's your master plan. You interpret it. And however a majority of you interpret it is what it is, the interpretation.
Okay. Did staff not find that it was in substantial compliance?
With the special use permit?
Yes.
Yes, I believe that was the recommendation of staff. And I'll tell you what I told the Planning Commission, in fairness to the Planning Commission, they get a bigger data set than the staff does. So the staff is, I've said this like a million times in the last month, but the staff is
A million
launching.
one now.
I'll say it again. So I apologize if I've already said this, but the staff's a launching pad, and I've said this to you all many times. The staff, we do the best we can. We try to come up with everything we can think of, but we don't get the benefit of public comment. Then it goes to Planning Commission. They have the benefit of public comment. Staff, there's a couple of us. Planning Commission, you have 7. So then they do the best they can, and they make a recommendation to this board. At the end of the day, the master plan is your document. You get to amend it, no one else. It's your interpretation that I have to follow on a day-to-day basis. So if I'm interpreting it in a way that's not consistent with the expectations of this board, I have to change and do what this board expects.
Okay. My last comment is related to some of the public comments that we've gotten and the people I've heard from. I will just tell you that there's a bit of a fear in some state employees who I've spoken to that are worried that the state is going to decide to not keep buildings in Carson. And those employees who are our citizens, our residents, and people who own our businesses, I guarantee you will suffer. I have already heard from people who are now having to commute to Reno because the state bought an office up there and their office moved. So I am very torn by this because on the one hand, I respect all of the comments here today by the public. They were well stated. I believe they were articulate. I am the state and the city, I'm putting myself in here, could have done a better job of working on this before it got to this point. This really got to a point that it shouldn't have gotten to. So I'm sorry, I'm not usually that critical, but I don't feel good about the way that we as government handled this, state or city. I had to put that out there because it bothers me enough that I felt like it bears stating. I don't know where I'm going to come down on this yet. I really don't. But when the time comes, I'll make a vote.
So I want to agree with what Supervisor Giomi has already stated. And so I really take all the comments that people have made, not just on this project, but over what we want our community to look like. And one of the major things that everybody keeps saying is they love that we're historic. So when you go way back to our plans and we had maps and we had people with clickers that were saying design element 1 or 2 or 3, and we were doing all of that, I think one of the most important things that struck me was that we are a government town and that the history of all of that mattered. It mattered greatly to the public. And so I am very proud, and I don't know any residents that have ever told me that they don't want us to be the capital. So I have to look at every decision that I make on the goodness for the entire community, right? It's for everybody. And so when I look at Carson City and I think about all of the buildings that are government buildings on Stewart Street, right? And you start looking at all of that, and that's where we really intersect. How does the city and the state intersect with one another? And that's the history, and that's that we're the capital. And so I also want to echo some things that reading through every comment is, why would you treat the state differently, or make them comply, or make them do this? And whether we like it or not, they are different. They do have different legislation. They do have different public processes. They do. They go through open meetings just in a different format, in a different way than we do. We also, when we adopted the master plan, I believe we made the statement and the offer to everyone that we might not have got it all right. We said that on the record. So I'm not treating the state any differently. We knew that it was a huge undertaking, that we had updated massively the maps and things of that nature. And so we gave everyone the opportunity to say, this isn't quite right for me, and to come in. And we have indeed made master plan amendments since the adoption of the master plan in May. We have made, oops, we didn't get this quite right. So I'm a lot with Stacy in, did we get it all right? And, if sometimes that's what you do. An amendment is an opportunity for a do-over. They're allowed. Amendments are allowed. So when I read public comment is don't let them amend, everyone has the opportunity to amend. So I just want you to know anyone can come in with a text amendment and request an amendment. So they're not getting special treatment. Now, for finding 3, the discussion for us is what changed. On page 58 of our master plan, the state was told they were not within the city's jurisdiction. It's as simple as that. That's what we said. Later, it's determined that wasn't correct, that what we wrote in the master plan was an error, that they really, or the city has jurisdiction based on a building date. So to get upset with the state and say, you should have known, no, they don't have anything else in state law about a master plan but what we wrote in the master plan. So they relied upon that. So when they're doing their design, they don't think they're in conflict. But I also agree with Stacy. I think they pretty much met it. And what I'm upset about is here we are today through all of this process about a parking lot. That's the reality, people. We're arguing about a parking lot. That's it, right? The Planning Commission, or the component that they couldn't make, but Heather Ferris did as staff, she made the findings, because like everybody, when you can't meet a particular issue, you mitigate it. Again, the state's not treated any different than every other developer or anyone else that comes in. So they are doing landscaping and buffering and things of that nature to mitigate that. And so I'm perplexed the same as Supervisor Giomi. The findings should have been met. They were met, and the word is substantial. So now I'm faced with the state's trying to continue to be a good partner and say, okay, the Planning Commission doesn't think we're meeting it. So they won't give me a special use permit because they think the parking lot is substantial noncompliance. So do we go through the process of them getting turned down for the special use permit? Because the state's already made it clear, for safety reasons, they're not going to change the parking lot orientation. They've made that clear. So now it's, okay, the planning commission, are they still going to say, sorry, state, you won't cooperate? Then they appeal to us, we're back here in 2 months, we're doing this again. Or do we look at this and say, what are the two things we were unaware of when we did the plan? Is the safety plan concerning parking lots. I don't think the city was aware of that, and the state relied upon page 58 of our master plan to indicate there was no jurisdiction. So I don't know what they should have known to fight about. I also, though, along with Supervisor Giomi, agree that they've met it. I think they are a good partner. I think investing $111 million into a Carson City building is substantial. It puts our workers to work, which is always what we're after. It maintains employment. I'm not saying it brings new jobs, but it certainly maintains them. I heard a comment today that, oh, let them go somewhere else. I am here to tell you that your master plan that talks about the vibrancy of a downtown, if we don't have those employees, they don't have business in the restaurants and things. I think that's just not good process. Our job is to maintain the vibrancy of the community. And so it's a difficult decision is to, do we wait to overturn the planning commission on a special use permit? Do we take care of this today and end it and let the state go on and build this beautiful building that's going to come to Carson City and help actually lift the downtown, because it's going to concentrate the employees there. And that's going to absolutely help the vibrancy of our downtown. I asked on the record on purpose, where are some of these coming from? Because I want to be honest, I'm concerned about the whole city, not just the downtown. So I'm like, where are these leases going to stop? And so when you tell me it's technology, I think that those are good buildings that can get rented. So that impresses me, that I'm going to help the downtown vibrancy, but not really hurt another area of town. Because that always is a trade-off that we're always making, is I don't want to hurt another area to help one. But I think the downtown is there. I think the state has cooperated. They still have to meet the zoning. I had some calls or some questions on, well, they don't have to do anything. Well, that's not true. They have a building official that does the same thing, runs through codes and does it. But I think it kind of falls along with Supervisor Giomi. It's just a weird relationship. I guess that's right. It's just different. It's weird. But it doesn't mean they don't have to comply with rules and meet standards. You can look at the other buildings like the Bryan building, even the state, which is not this group, the legislature, that just got all remodeled and redone. I hope you all agree it's beautiful. I think I'm honestly surprised how good it turned out. So I'm not concerned that we don't have a good partner or a good neighbor. I think on the record today, they were very clear that they do have the motivation to put up a good building in Carson City, to be a good neighbor and to have a good working environment for the employees. So I'm not concerned about that building. Like I said, what I'm just the most concerned about is somehow we got hung up on a parking lot. And that's the real truth. That's what happened at the Planning Commission. I watched the meetings, I attended the meetings, and I'm like, and maybe I'm wrong, but most of the public that I've spoke to because I want to let you know, I even talked to people that wrote in the letters and I called them. And I said, so would you deny this project over a parking lot? And they're like, what are you talking about? I don't think they had the whole story, right? People read documents or newspaper articles. I didn't say everyone, I said some. They don't want to lose the jobs. I think exactly what Supervisor Giomi said. If we don't do this, the state's not going to redesign that building. All those jobs are going to Reno. We fight super hard to be a proud capital. We need to maintain those jobs in Carson City, I feel, so that the legislature continues to invest in Carson City. I'm already concerned that, right, we asked the governor to prioritize this, or I'll speak for myself, because I definitely wanted the children's home blight, I called it. Get rid of that. It's not right. It's not right that the state's leaving that mess in our city. And so now I feel like, wow, they invested $111 million coming our way. That's a lot of jobs, a lot of economics, which is also an integral piece of our master plan. So it's a which way. I do not think, when I think of a downtown, I think of retail and visitors wandering around and looking, a draw. A downtown is a draw. I am sorry, but I do not think a DMV, a Bryan building, a Health and Human Services building are draws in any way to be part of the downtown. So I don't have a problem removing them. I think they're adjacent to the downtown, and I think that they offer the economic vitality for that downtown. And so I can make finding 3 based on the safety plan for the parking lot and for page 58 for our error in saying that there was no city jurisdiction over your state capitol complex, which obviously we're having all these discussions. And so I guess we did have jurisdiction. We told you we didn't, but we did. And so I can make finding 3 and I can live with removing them from the downtown mixed use. So Supervisor Horton.
Thank you. I've served this city for 40 years, and in my 40 years, I have met with the state on numerous occasions, state land, state public works, NDEP, and numerous other agencies in my service to the community. And never once have we gone into one of those meetings with the argument that we're going to fight and we're going to win, we're going to get our way no matter what. We've always gone in there with the thought that we will work together and we will come up with the best solution to the problem. And I'm sure that Mr. Rob would come up here and tell you that that's their goal as well. We want to do what's best for the state. That's his job. He wants to do what's best for the community as well, just like we do. I think it's important that we consider all the facts, but we look at the bigger picture as we move forward. We can't just focus on, hey, we're going to get our way or they're going to get their way. That's not how you solve problems. It's not how we've ever been successful. And I can tell you, we've been very successful over the years working with the state on numerous projects. So I think we need to open our eyes and think this through.
Okay. Supervisor Schutte?
Some of the questions that I had, and quite a few have been answered, so thank you. A lot of this comes down to, should the downtown policies be relevant to this project, and why or why not? And we have spoken to that, or those have been addressed in the comments. You know, the safety issue, sadly, that's the world we live in. Would I like personally to see less surface parking? Absolutely. And perhaps that's something that, as this project moves forward, perhaps there could be some compromise. I understand the need for ample parking, excess parking, if you will, perhaps one of those rows of surface parking could be removed to lose some of the capability, but maybe you're talking 50 spots, 40 spots, to be able to move that building a little bit closer to the corners, to perhaps better align with part of, or the genesis of why we're here today. I think there's ways to collaborate and be good partners. I also, though, getting back to, should these policies be relevant? For maybe they shouldn't, because as has been discussed by several folks up here, the role of government is quite different than the role of downtown. And when I think about the historic nature, that also came to mind. Our history is as the state capital. And so a capital complex is historic. While not historic in terms of old buildings, it's historic in terms of the role of Carson City as the state capital. So I think that is incredibly important to keep in mind. And I will come back if anyone else has any other comments, because I lost my train of thought for a minute.
Okay. Anybody else? No, I think we probably, well, I think we've talked a lot. So I'll give you a moment, or.
Yes, thank you. All right, so in terms of the SUP and the state master plan and what has been presented, candid question, in the event this were to be removed from the downtown mixed use, does that change in any way the design of the mall, the master plan that has been presented? Because I think that that is a fear that people have. One public comment person said, well, now can they build 10 stories?
Right.
Can they suddenly now change everything? So that is a concern. So regardless of where this, regardless of where it is located on the map and in what, whether it's downtown mixed use or in a different area, does that change the master plan? Can that be?
Just put it on the record. I think that was a great question, and again, something we got from the public, that they're misunderstanding that if we take you from the master plan, suddenly you get willy-nilly. It's like, no, they still need a special use permit that meets a bunch of conditions. But if you could put that on the record, Jack, I'd appreciate it.
Jack Robb for the record, to talk about 10-story buildings and everything. We're proud of being the capital, as you guys are proud of being the capital. We want to have stuff that fits in. We're not going to go 10 stories. They talked about a 6-story building in the original design, and that was one of the last things I wanted, was to overshadow the capital, that close to the capital. I love coming in the morning. I live in Reno, and you come down the hill, you can see the Capitol building. You get over by Home Depot, you can see the Capitol building. Anything that would distract from that, I wouldn't be in favor of. I don't see us going off the rails even into the future, because what we're putting in motion now is a design that's economical, functional, it works, it's safe, it meets all the criteria we need in the design. So I think what we're taking forward is going to be the blueprint. We have the next 4 years planned out with the first 2 buildings and then the next 2 buildings and 2 parking garages. Once we get that done, it's going to be a model to go north up towards Musser take out the 2 old schools, take out what's the mailroom and Department of Education now, and rework that whole area. But once you start with something and you prove it works, it's easier to go forward. I can tell you, if there's one thing that's the bane of my existence as the job I have and my prior job, it's elevators. Elevators are the biggest pain as the state. We're going to avoid tall buildings. We're going to avoid things that everybody's fearful of just because ongoing maintenance, entrapments, safety issues, rescues. You were in the fire department, you know how many
Just
times.
remind the governor that he controls business and industry. Maybe we can get some elevator, relief.
A lot of these fears aren't going to come to bear, and we want to have a Capitol Mall that's a walkable space, that's connected, and then connect to Friends Park right there across from the library and archives, and all connect you to your downtown.
Jack, I forgot one question. When do you envision this project actually going out to bid or starting construction? I think that will eliminate fears.
If we get approval today, we're coming out of the ground in March.
We're ready.
It's bid. We have all the subcontractor bids out, everything. We're ready to come out of the ground. I've set a deadline. I didn't ask when it could get completed. I tell them when it needs to be completed because we have all these leases coming due. We are planning on having a ribbon cutting on the first building, May of '27. The building that fronts Stewart and Fifth. So that building will do a ribbon cutting May of '27 while the legislature's still in session. The next building, the parking garage right behind that. And then we have the planning out for the 2 additional buildings and another parking garage. They'll be right behind that. So
So the plan's not going to change?
The
Like,
plan's
I
not
think
gonna
that's a
change.
good question.
we're coming out of the ground.
Okay.
We're ready to come out of the ground.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else, anything else? Do you have more, Lisa?
Well, I just wanted to again ask that as this proceeds, regardless of the decision today, please be mindful of the concerns expressed and those areas that are flexible, whether it's parking, landscaping, real grass, that kind of thing, to please really keep in mind that, and I think this whole process, you've seen our community and the residents really love Carson City and really want to protect it. And we want to be good partners. And so thank you in advance for keeping that in mind, because we're all in this together.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, then were you ready for a motion? Or, yes? You guys want me to do it? Somehow I knew that was coming. Okay. I move not to accept the Planning Commission's recommendation to this board to deny the requested master plan amendment and further move to approve without modification the original request for amendment based on the record of the Planning Commission meeting on January 28th, 2026, including evidence on the record, as well as the ability to make all the finding as discussed on the record today. Oh, wait, I need a second, then we can go on discussion.
I second, but with some discussion.
Yeah, we'll go on to discussion. Supervisor White?
Thank you. I'll need some clarification on the motion, considering that the notice of public hearing for the Board of Supervisors was substantially different than the notice of public hearing for the Planning Commission. The Board of Supervisors has been noticed as a first reading for a municipal code change. To this point, I don't see any draft code, and so I guess we'll need clarification from council where we're at with this motion.
Certainly. Mr. Yu?
I'm happy to try to shed some light on that. And this was a discussion that we had last evening, for the record. And I did get on a phone call with both Ms. Sullivan and with Supervisor White with respect to your concerns on this published notice. I did get a copy of this, and I was taking a look at it this morning and last evening. And you're correct, there is a defect technically in this notice that was published. It does reference for today's action as part of today's agenda on this particular hearing in the introduction of a proposed ordinance. That's obviously incorrect. The mechanism here is not to introduce an ordinance, but rather to take an action on the motion that was just presented by this board. However, I would say, as I had analogized last night, we're really talking about the same cargo here, just different vehicles. And really what I mean by that is substantively all the information that was released to the public was accurate. So in my perspective, in my view, from a legal angle, I think that there was proper notice in the sense that substantively all the information contents and putting the public on notice with respect to what was going to be discussed on the record today and the potential effectuation of an actual matter being presented today. I think that was all accurate. Technically, yes, there was a defect. I would say that was not a material defect that would otherwise make it an issue today if this board were to proceed. So I think that substantially we're in compliance with that notice requirement.
Thank you, Mr. Yu.
And I would like to apologize for interrupting your dinner date with your children last night, but I thought that was, when I made that discovery, I thought that was pretty important.
That was absolutely fine. It actually gave me a little bit of a break of having to entertain my 11-year-old daughter. So thank you for that.
Supervisor Schutte has asked for further discussion. I would like to hear that in light of, we always talk about how do we get to yes. Before I talk about where I'm at on the findings, I would like to hear the rest of any discussion that's available.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Earlier, Hope Sullivan had mentioned about the process and how city staff, they're given, they have their information, and then like the Planning Commission then has the benefit of more information. And then in our case as supervisors in this process, we even have more information. So speaking of information, I wish in the December Planning Commission meeting, I really wish the state had presented what they presented today. I think that the outcome could have been different. I don't know, but I believe that the information that was presented today is helpful, and it does provide that added, whether it's reassurance or that added, insight into why these findings can be met. And because they weren't presented, we ended up getting a different outcome than perhaps what the state had hoped and what could have happened. So in light of that, I do feel comfortable with this process. And quite frankly, yesterday, I had my questions. I was making phone calls. I was revisiting the meetings a couple of times. I had my earbuds, I'm taking my notes, I'm back and forth. I printed out the commission or the Planning Commission agendas. And so please know that this process has been very helpful, and it is important to keep in mind that as information is presented, it's important that we listen to that. So thank you.
Anybody else? Supervisor White, are you coming up the back end? Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess. I guess the whole thing here for me is agreeing with what you said earlier, that we told the community, we know we didn't get everything right, that there's going to need to be some adjustments. I do not perceive that acknowledgement to be extended to such an extraordinary ask, well beyond what a minor amendment might be. And so I would also like to point out, while we're looking at this municipal code on page 180, number 14, those findings are listed as A, B, C, D, and E. However, when it gets to the Planning Commission, they're listed out numerically. So there's a disconnect there that I think can be a little problematic with people trying to put all of these octopus arms into one place. So at this point, rather than 1, 2, 3, I'm gonna address it right off the municipal code. So at A, the proposed amendment is in substantial compliance with the objectives and policies and action programs of the master plan. What's being asked today as a major amendment is not what the community told us they wanted in the master plan, and it's not what we put in the master plan. B, the proposed amendment will provide for land uses that are compatible with existing adjacent land uses and will not have an adverse effect on the health, safety, and welfare of the public. While I think intuitively we know that, but that really hasn't been discussed here today. With the proper discussion, I could find on item B. Item C, the proposed amendment identifies or addresses changes and conditions that have occurred since the master plan was adopted by the Board of Supervisors, and the amendment will represent a more desirable land use. I would say that the only thing that I can find that has changed since the master plan was adopted is that the state has realized they should have been more engaged in the master plan process. In fact, Mr. Robb said that today. Item D, the proposed amendment will promote the desired pattern for the orderly physical growth and development of the city. It will guide development. It goes on for several lines there. I think, again, intuitively, I think that's a yes. But that wasn't discussed either at the Planning Commission or here today. Item E, the proposed amendment does not violate any provision of NRS or CCMC. With all due respect to council, and I mean that sincerely, Dan, but I have to say, I don't know that we are comfortably in line with the intent of the various NRS and municipal codes that I have read. And on that, I cannot accept that finding.
Okay, anybody else? Then we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say no.
No.
Let the record reflect it was 3 ayes and 2 noes, so the ayes have the motion. Thank you all for a good meeting and discussion. Thank you. Okay, we're now on to agenda item 16, which is our non-action items. Are there any updates or statuses, Mr. Martell? Or we're good for today?
No, Mayor, thank you.
Okay. Then we will move to, let me just double check. I'm sorry. Is there any member that wanted to share anything with happenings or going-ons or Yeah, I thought, wait a minute,
Just,
where's my report,
starting-
Stacy?
Sorry, today's Thursday. Starting tomorrow, in Mills Park, Carson City Lights. It's an event sponsored by BAC and CTA, Brewery Arts Center and Convention Tourism Authority. Try not to use acronyms. I don't really know what to tell you what it is. I can't really tell you what it is, except to say that it's a sort of an interactive display of art where you walk through a series of panels that are displaying art in light. Sorry,
Movement.
it's kind of vague, but I think
Movement in art.
Yeah, movement in art. I mean,
There
I
you
think
go.
the idea is to go on the CTA website. There's a link to to get a ticket. Sorry, I don't know how much. Huh? No, it's
Kinda
not.
like-
It's not
it's
no,
just
you won't be running into walls and it's not that.
Into lights.
I honestly, I don't know what it is. I don't know what
Do
it is.
you have to check it
And-
out?
And CTA was, at our meeting was, I think Eric was purposely vague because I think the idea is to experience it and to get out and experience it. So it starts Friday night. We're blessed with, we're cursed with no snow, but we're blessed with nice weather to be able to walk through and take advantage of that. So that's what I would encourage folks to do.
Anybody else, anything to share? Okay. Then we will move on to our final public comment. Do I have any final public comment? Denny? You're welcome.
Denny French, Carson City, Nevada. Not to say that I'm a little disappointed, I'm very disappointed. After having new information come in that even Supervisor Schutte brought up would have helped inform them, what do you think it's done to us? What do you think the lack of informed ability to be here today with information that we could at least have it not just being thrown up against the wall and sliding down, and then every time we get information, it changes or we're better informed. How can we come and make statements or be involved if those type of things keep happening? And I've seen it over and over again. You're informed after the fact by a telephone call that I'm not involved in. You've talked to an individual that's a voter, and you get this different gem of information, and it changes your mind or helps resolute your present thoughts. And we're not there. And I think you missed the point. What is making them so anxious to have it change? What are they suggesting that we couldn't have done in a special use meeting to make corrections or suggestions to? What the heck is the situation? They have not made that clear in their statements of we just want a temporary for safety considerations. I don't care about a parking lot. I think we do probably need them. I do care that they have no substantial drawing or sketches or anything of their proposed structures, let alone the specifics of what that will do to traffic, what will it do to the environment. And I think that was all missed by y'all. And I hate seeing that about us. Our environment counts. Those things are important. And I'm really sort of disappointed. And Lisa, I appreciate that you've got new information that had you better informed. It helped inform me that we are actually not being informed as a community. It helped inform me that I'm not the only one that felt like, oh, new information. But the public didn't get to respond to that, didn't get to ask the state questions that we would have liked to. I couldn't promote to you what I was thinking. I couldn't encourage you to ask this question, but you had the opportunity. And I think the fact that Supervisor White was pretty straight on, Giomi was a little harder to follow and wasn't sure which way he was going, but it did help me. Right. The fact that I don't relate to my cousins very much.
For the record, I don't either.
And it's not because I don't love them, but I don't expect that I'm going to have my rooms or my building or my yard determined by their wants instead of by my input. And without discussion, they're more respectful than that. And I don't think the state helped.
Thank you, Mr. French, very much. I'm angry. Thank you. Ms. Owens.
Sandra Owens. So I really hope that the gentleman that was sitting here lives forever and is in that position forever because we only have his guarantee now. That's the only thing we have now. Because now they can do whatever they want. We don't have that input. But it should have gone, this whole process should have gone through the special use permit. All of this information should have gone back to the planning commission, and it should have gone through instead of exempting them from our down, because we spent time on that. We spent a lot of time on that. I went to those meetings. We spent money on that. Our city was highly involved in that, and it was important to us, and we gave away all our rights today. We did. And then we have his guarantee that he's not going to build 10-foot buildings, and I don't think that they will. But that's all we have, his guarantee. So hopefully that guarantee will follow through 30 years from now when none of us are here, and but our kids are, and we're trying to keep Carson City and the history of Carson City alive. So that's all I have to say. But I think y'all messed up, except for you two.
Thank you. Is there any other final public comment? So just for the record on that, I'm not sure we reiterated, but the state is still subject to a special use permit. That has not changed. They're not subject to a downtown rule, but they're still subject to the building heights, setbacks, all the things that you're talking about. They are still subject to that. So I just don't want the public record to have an error or people assume that they're not subject to it, because they are. So, okay, there's no other final public comment for the Board of Supervisors. So if there's no objection, we will adjourn as the Board of Supervisors. Does anybody need a quick break, and we'll come back and do redevelopment, or you're ready to go? Everybody's good? Let's go. I'm going to call the Redevelopment Authority together. May I have a roll call, please, Mr. Hohen?
Chairperson Bagwell.
Here.
Vice Chair Giommi.
Here.
Member Horton. Member Schutte.
Here.
Member White. You have your quorum.
Thank you so very much. Is there any opening public comment for the Redevelopment Authority? Redevelopment Authority. Okay, I'm just making sure that you heard.
Directing my deal to you as a redevelopment program, you are facing a redevelopment. And I hope that you will keep us informed with the most direct and well-known and understood, agreed upon total programs. Don't bring me a half-baked whatever and then fix it on telephone calls or in back rooms. Let's make it public. Redevelopment is what you're about, and you're involved with a great deal right now, and I want you to really realize how hard and frustrating it is for a person like me that wants to be doing my due diligence. So keep us in post and keep us in thought, and considerations to the public statements in the master plan considerations. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any other? I don't see any. So we'll move to agenda item 22A, the approval of the minutes of January 6th. Does any member have any changes? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion, please.
Move to approve the Redevelopment Authority meeting minutes from the 6th of January, 2026 as presented.
I have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. We're now going to move to agenda item 23A, discussion and possible action regarding the resolution for augmentation of the Carson City Redevelopment Authority budget for $7.5 million. Ms. Benaboo, would you give us a few highlights of that if needed?
I will. Good morning, or afternoon. Is it afternoon
we're
yet?
still
No,
morning.
it's still morning. All right, good. So this is 3 different funds. It's our little budget that we have to do separate from the Carson City budget. And I will note there is one error on the explanation of augmentations. At the very bottom, there's North Carson. Okay, sorry. I do not have a page number. It's the.
Are you
it's-
talking in the
It's right
staff
behind the
report?
staff report. It's right behind the
first-
staff report. It's the explanation of augmentations. It should be the first one behind the staff report.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe it's right behind the resolution.
The spreadsheet.
There's a
I have
spreadsheet.
spreadsheets behind the
Yes,
resolution.
there's a spreadsheet. It
Oh,
says
yes.
explanation of augmentations at the top.
Ah,
197.
there's a hole right through mine. I got you. That's why I couldn't see it. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So on the second one, redevelopment revolving fund, kind of toward the bottom, there's 2 North Carson complete streets.
Right.
And one of those, the 1.6 or 1.7 million, should be the courthouse. That's the design of the courthouse. I just noticed we must have accidentally copied down when we did the spreadsheet. So apologies on that one. But that is the largest project that we're rolling forward, so I wanted to make sure on the record we fix that. And we have some sidewalk and ADAs. There's the Roop Street improvements. That's the other large project. And the rest are just little things that they didn't complete last year that are moving forward. So they've probably already been completed this year, or they're working on them. If there's any questions, I'm
Does
happy
any member
to.
have a question? And thanks for putting that on the record, because again, just like we did on the other one, I think it's important, and we are trying to be transparent and always inform the public, but this is the fund that we are utilizing to save for the courthouse
For
improvements.
the redesign,
And so,
yes.
right, we did juvenile in the other account, and we're doing the courthouse here, because again, we're trying to pay in cash as much as we can to get these projects done. So just
Correct.
thank you for that. Okay, is there any public comment on this item? I'll take a motion. Supervisor Giomi?
Move to adopt resolution number 2026-RA-R1. As corrected on the record. Sorry.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Let the record reflect it was unanimous. Okay, we're now on to final public comment for the Redevelopment Authority. Hearing none, okay. You're not on to press the button. Thank you.
I just want Carson City resident Denny French. I like to change that up just to see if I'm thinking. The deal is that that I appreciate the budget people. They have been one of the more clear and direct of our agencies and departments, and I appreciate their efforts. A lot of work. I don't do numbers. I actually don't spell either, but that's another matter. The main thing is, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, no further public comment. Okay, no objection. We are adjourned. Thank you for a good meeting. I know it was hard on everyone, but thank you.